the Starbucks cold brew you love is now available in a can. It's so good, you'll believe that too good to be true can be true. Like finding out that you and your crush have been listening to the same playlist on repeat. With the smooth taste of Starbucks cold brew in a can, sipping is believing. Available in 3 delicious flavors. Shop now wherever you buy groceries. Click or tap the banner to learn more.
Dr. Homebrew is brought to you by 5 Star Chemicals, providing safety and cleaning supplies for brewing, distilling, and winemaking at 5starchemicals.com.
Doctor, look!
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Supplies for brewing, distilling, and winemaking at 5starchemicals.com.
All right, everybody, welcome to Dr. Homebrew. This month of shows is like full of technical difficulties, I swear to God. I have no idea.
That was
what's
perfect.
happening.
What are you
Technical
talking about?
difficulties? Perfect, yes.
It's playing in the background. Our Skype doesn't like us tonight. It's terrible. Everything's terrible. Except this show. This show is perfect. Tell you also what's not terrible. 5 Star Chemicals. The number one sponsor of this show. They own this show, everybody. If they say jump, we have to say off of what? Not even how high, just it's already implied.
Into a bath of what?
Yeah.
Into a bath of
Please not
star
PBW.
sand.
Soak off your flesh with this chemical. All right, I can do that.
So they make all the well, not so tasty stuff that makes your beer tasty.
That's absolutely right.
I mean,
very good, Brian.
Don't drink it, but
No, don't drink. Well,
drink their beer that's made with it.
you can drink Star Sand, apparently.
I guess
it's
you
properly
can, I've
diluted. The sales guys used to come around all the homebrew shops and do that. And it's like, I trust you. Like, I want to tell them, I trust you. I don't need you to do that for me because it freaks me out. I don't need to do that.
Properly diluted, what is that? I mean, is this like homeopathy or something?
If you have rickets, just pour the... No, seriously, 5starchemicals.com. Everyone knows 5 Star. They make that PBW, and they make that Star Sand, and the Sandy Clean, and all that kind of stuff. If you're using 5 Star, you're probably brewing some pretty good beer. If you're not using 5 Star, you could use an improvement. Go to your homebrew shop and look for 5 Star Chemicals. PBW, like we said, Star Sand, like we said. And those two are really the key, the kind of crux of making good beer. You have to clean your equipment first, then you can sanitize. Don't trust those kind of one-step wonders over there. You do a proper cleaning regimen. All the commercial breweries do it. You should do it too. They make good beer. Well, most of them. Well, some of them. You need to make good beer. Make better beer than the commercial guys, please.
No one-steppers. It takes 2 steps to properly jump.
That's right. That's right. We also have a brand new sponsor, one I'm really excited about, BrewToad, brewtoad.com. What is a BrewToad? I'll tell you what a BrewToad is. Go to the website and you'll find out, so you don't have to hear my terrible voice tell you all about it. But BrewToad is an online brewing software database, really. You go in, you register, you make a free account. Like I said, it's free, whatever. You don't have to pay anything for it. You get all the same stuff as you would if you would pay for it. But you go in there, you have your username, you create your recipes, you upload them into the site. It's very easy to do. All the ingredients are there. You just drop them in. It's very easy to convert from pounds to ounces to kilograms or whatever the Europeans are deciding they want to use now for weights and measurements.
Actually, I think there's about 4 countries on the surface of the planet that don't use metric right now.
Right, and we're the leaders.
It's us and like Burundi and...
Hey, I'm a big fan of Burundi.
There you go.
Yeah, all my shoes are made there.
That explains the hair.
One thing I enjoy about BrewToad too is the cross-referencing in there. You use a funky ingredient and you can click on the ingredient name and it'll it'll bring up a list of other beers that are brewed with that same ingredient.
That's right.
It's kind of cool.
They have a lot of functionality built into this thing. It's pretty cool. Just go there, brewtoad.com. You don't have to make a free account right now if you don't want to, but just go ahead and use that little search tool up on the right-hand corner.
The search toad?
The search toad. Excuse me. That brought to you by BrewToad. And search for your favorite beer. So if you want to brew, if you're looking to do a Berliner Weiss, for example, search Berliner Weiss. Search whatever you're trying to do, and it'll come up with a plethora, I guarantee it, of of recipes. They have over 40,000 homebrewers on this site with something like over 170,000 recipes. Oh, it's actually right here. I don't even have to guess. 172,162 recipes right now on this
now
on this thing right now.
What about now?
I'll refresh it. Well, when will now be now?
Yeah, I think
now.
The 2 was mine. I posted earlier tonight.
Uh-oh.
172,169 recipes.
Oh,
right now.
3 retractions. Interesting.
It went down?
It went down? No. It go up. No?
Yeah.
Okay. Never scratch that. Never mind. Moving right along. No.
It's going up all the time.
That's a lot more recipes than even I've made.
Or
right.
By a factor of 3,000
billion.
You can never brew all those recipes in your life.
You never can, but if you're looking at research stuff and see what other people do, and the cool thing is they'll come up all the search functions, all that kind of stuff, all the search results will come up. Citra single hop IPA, for example, you mouse over it, it'll tell you the final gravity, the starting gravity, the IBUs, the ABVs, and they have little sliders that'll tell you exactly kind of where it is in the grand scheme of things as far as that beer goes, style wise. So you don't have to click in every single recipe to look for a target ABV that you're looking for, let's say. You can just kind of mouse over everything and find just what you're looking for. These guys are homebrewers, man, and they've really built something cool here. So please do us a favor, check out brewtoad.com, support our lovely sponsor.
I saw on the Facebooks that they're from Minnesota, too, which is a lovely state, by the way.
It is a lovely state.
I'm from there.
We also have another new sponsor, another new sponsor, but one that is not unfamiliar to the Brewing Network, and it's Nico Brew.
Nico.
Our handsome, skirt-wearing Nico Brew. Go to nicobrew.com. He's your one-stop hop shop. Go there. Buy your hops from Nico Brew. Support him. Support his family. Please, buy the man some pants. Buy enough hops where he can stop wearing his wife's clothes and he can just start wearing pants. Please. For the love of God. Whatever. Feeling weird today.
Maybe it's the skirt.
I should probably change.
Someday we're going to come in wearing kilts for the show. Lee and I.
They're skirts. Anyway, so if you're brand new to the show, which I think is our 10th show now, guys. It seems like a lot less, but this is our 10th show. The purpose of the show is we want to provide an outlet for you, the listener, the homebrew listener, to get feedback on your beers. Oftentimes, it's just not possible to get the amount of feedback you're looking for when you, say, enter a competition or whatever. You get the sheet back, and most of them are filled out very nice. The ones I used to do were not, because I'm terrible. But if you want to ask follow-up questions, you can't do it. You can't just send an email. I mean, you can, but you send an email to the judge who fills out your score sheet when you get it back a month after the thing, and it's like, well, I have no reference point for this beer, so he can't help you out.
Right, and nobody ever does that anyways.
They don't?
Well, I think I've had one or two in like umpteen years of judging.
I've heard of people getting recipes that way. If like, please send me this recipe. And
usually that's the judge asking for the recipe.
Yeah. It's like, contact me.
This beer rocks. Can you please send this to me?
That's awesome.
And you rarely hear back on those either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've asked for recipes before. I never got one.
That's awesome. But that's what Dr. Homebrew is all about, guys. It's you come on, you send us your beer, we judge it. My co-hosts and two team master judges, BJCP master judges, Brian and Lee, they judge it. I sit up here in the booth and just kind of look at them.
JP judges it too in his own way.
I stand. I'm like that guy, the dad from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory who owned the peanut shelling factory or whatever, and then bought all his Wonka bars for his daughter to win the golden ticket.
Yeah.
And he would just stand up there with his cuffs rolled, arms crossed, just looking down amongst his workers, making sure that's just me. I don't do anything. I just watch people.
Take your hands out of your armpits, please. Thank you.
I smell.
And so this is also the best brewing, the best judging gig ever, because we get all the recipes and they go on Brewtoad. So
that's true. Right. That's true. That's absolutely true. So yeah, what you guys do, you send us your beer, the guys judge them, you put your recipes into Brewtoad, and you come on the show with us. So you get to ask the guys questions about what they're talking about. What the hell are you talking about? Add some more dark malts. I don't know what that means. Why don't you help me out? And then they do, and then I go, oh, that's a really good, I can really kind of see. So Anyway, we're doing 2 beers tonight. One is a Vienna Lager, and what's the other one, guys? I forget.
It's a classic American lager.
A 1C premium American.
Premium.
What is a premium American
Premium.
lager?
It's
Is it like a Coors?
it's premium.
Oh,
It's
so it's
not
like a
light.
Budweiser.
Yeah,
Oh,
but real Bud, not Bud Light.
like Budvar.
No, that would
No.
be a classic Czech Pils.
Yeah, that was a really
Yes.
stupid thing for me to say. I'm glad you guys are here. I tell you, because
Where would you
like
be
a
without a
Coors?
premium?
I don't
You'd
know.
probably be right here doing something else, but that's another story.
I just figured out what my problem was.
Really? Do share.
Well, I had the live feed. By the way, our home for streaming now is new.livestream.com/The Brewing Network. And so I had that up on the computer so I can, actually update the site. And I forgot to close it. So then when I went live with the software, the stream went live and it was playing underneath everything I'm talking.
We can edit this out in the real show, right, JP?
No, because it's going on live stream because they're so awesome. Everything's right there.
Nobody wants to know.
So meaning nobody's heard anything we've just said?
No, they have. It was playing on the pod that was down, and then I started turning it up, and I heard my own voice. I'm like, God, what is that?
Oh.
As someone's raping a cat.
Is that
and then
me?
It's my voice. So
We all sound different.
we do sound different. Tell you what, let me take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to start drinking some Vienna Lager from Glenn. What do you think?
Yeah.
Cool?
Let's do
All
it.
right.
All right, everybody, stay tuned. It's Dr. Homebrew.
I'm staying tuned.
Do you know the 3 most important rules in brewing? Sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5-Star Chemicals. 5-Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5-Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5-Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star Sand, SaniClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5-Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5-Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5-Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5-Star treatment today.
This Mosaic Pale Ale from Rebel Brewer is delicious.
Yes, I enjoy it too.
Wait, did you hear that? It sounds like a velociraptor.
Why would a velociraptor be here? That doesn't make any sense.
He's going for my beer.
I'll stop him.
It looks like our frightening friend just has a thing for Rebel Brewer hoppy beers.
RebelBrewer.com has the largest selection of grains on the planet. And if you order before noon, most orders will ship the same day. 2/3 of the country gets their orders in 2 days or less. Rebel Brewer, the velociraptor of homebrew shops. Why wait? Quick, flexible, speedy, fast, not slow and fast, and speedy.
Visit rebelbrewer.com today. Or I'll rip your face off.
Oh, and he'll totally do it too.
Visit today at RebelBrewer.com. One of the last things many brewers try to master is the ingredient that makes up most of their beer, water. Brewers Publications is pleased to announce Water, a comprehensive guide for brewers of all levels by How to Brew author John Palmer and professional brewer Colin Kaminsky.
Hi, I'm John Palmer. This book is the result of many years of asking the tough questions about water to professional brewers and brewing scientists, and we are very pleased with how it turned out. It's the first book that is solely about water treatment throughout the brewing process. The book is intended for all brewers, from homebrewers to professionals, and we hope you like it.
From how to read a water report to treating your wastewater and everything in between, Water is the comprehensive guide you've always wanted on brewing's least understood ingredient. Flavor contributions, water chemistry, and adjusting water to styles of beer. John and Colin will teach you everything you need to know. Water is available from brewerspublications.com and fine brewing booksellers near you. Take the mystery out of your brewing water. Visit brewerspublications.com for your copy of Water today.
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. Oh, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
right, thanks for sticking with us. It is Dr. Homebrew, the handsome guy who did the voiceover. It wasn't lying to you.
Who is that guy?
That's
Who's
announcer
that
man.
man.
That's announcer man.
You pay. You send money and say this on a. Okay.
And he comes in and says it, and then goes, "All right, here's my invoice," and then we never pay it. With us, I don't know what that means. We have Glenn Arnold. Glenn, welcome to the program.
Thanks, JP. Hi, Brian. Hi, Lee.
Hello there.
Hey.
Oh, I tell you, Glenn, I need some of your beer, dude. Hang on a second.
No relation to Tom Arnold, I assume.
No relation.
All right, Glenn. Tell us what purpose did you send your beer to us? What would you like to get out of this lovely train wreck of a show?
Well, since you guys are brewing experts, and all my friends say my beer's not bad, but I actually want to hear from some experts saying it's drinkable at least, you know.
I like Glenn. He has low expectations, just like me. How long you been homebrewing, buddy?
By myself, about 9 months, but Buddy showed me how the homebrew, and we brewed together for about 2 years.
Oh, okay. That's cool. And are you primarily extract, or are you all grain?
All grain.
All grain. How long have you been doing all grain? Did you jump by yourself to all grain?
Yeah, I did all grain by myself, but when I was brewing with my friend, we started out with extract, and then about 8 months we switched to all grain.
All right, cool. Did you build your own all grain system, or did you buy one of those fancy setups?
We built our own.
Yeah, boy, that's a homebrewer for you, boys. He's building his own thing.
Yeah, but it's not as nice as some of those fancy commercial ones.
Right. Well, I say attaboy, and I have a fancy commercial one, so, you know.
I don't. It's much nicer to have built your own. Then it's yours.
That's true.
It doesn't look so shiny, but it's yours.
Mine doesn't look shiny anymore. I have so many boil-overs.
Oh, well, put some of that Star Sand to use and clean it off.
I should. But I don't want to. Although it would work pretty well, I'm sure. All right, Glenn, let's dive into your beer here. What do you think?
Sounds great.
Do you have any in front of you? Are you drinking with us, or is it too early?
Yeah, I'm drinking with you.
Attaboy. All right, Lee, what do you think?
What do I think? Vienna Lager. All right, where are we here? So we tried this out this evening, and what we get sort of in the aroma, sweet malt, moderate apple berry esters, a little out of style on the esters. It should be a clean lager-like ferment, mostly just malt and hop aromas. I get a little bit of an almost warty character in the malt in the first bottle. Of the second one we got here is maybe a little less so. Getting a little bit of an apple character, which seems a little like acetaldehyde. Not really picking up any of the spicy noble hops you might get in a lager, but on the other hand, this style, really, that's not a very prominent thing to get, so maybe that's not surprising. It pours a low off-white head, fades to a low beach with mixed bubbles. Actually, the first bottle had kind of large bubbles. This bottle has much finer bubbles, looks much nicer, actually. A little bit of haze, has a nice brown caramel color. Although, again, this bottle is much nicer. I'm beginning to think there's a big difference between the bottles on this stuff. But this one has a pretty passable clarity and a nice sort of light brown caramel color like you'd expect with this kind of beer. A sweet malt flavor, fairly bitter in the balance. A little bit of acetaldehyde flavor is moderately strong, but not over the top. Some red berry and toasty malt flavors are also in there. You expect the toasty malt in a Vienna Lager. The berries are an ester. Again, is something you wouldn't necessarily expect. Actually, you probably wouldn't expect with a good lager yeast. A bit of a leafy hop character is there. The hop flavor intensity is about right. I'd expect it to be a little more towards sort of a spicy noble hop flavor. The mouthfeel, body's medium. A little low on CO2, but in the first bottle, not so bad here. A little bit of creaminess is nice. A little bit of a drying astringency I found. A little bit tea-like in that first bottle. A little bit of that's still here. It's not alcoholic or hot. Basically, I thought the ingredient choices are probably pretty much dead on. It has a nice malt profile to it. The hop balance is about right, although the flavor on the flavor hops was a little bit sort of on the green vegetable side, a little bit leafy. The main thing that I had an issue with this beer was the fermentation character. Your classic lager fermentation should turn out in the finished product next to no flavors at all. So no esters, no sulfurs, lots of sulfur while it's fermenting probably, but none or low to none in the finished product. And no acetaldehyde or diacetyl or DMS or anything like that. This beer to me had a fair amount of acetaldehyde and a noticeable amount of esters, which suggests to me a fast ferment or a hot ferment. It also seemed a little bit sweet, although it was more so in the first bottle than the second, which made me wonder if it's a little bit under-fermented. We can go into some troubleshooting tips after Brian, but maybe a little bit on the acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde is it's a fermentation intermediate product that's produced by the yeast. They basically crank a lot of that out while they're fermenting, but since it's an intermediate in their metabolic cycle, they usually soak it right back up, and it shouldn't be there in the finished beer. It does tend to come out if you settle out the yeast too fast, or if the ferment gets stopped before it's quite done and before the yeast has the chance to absorb that stuff again. So,
what's the flavor of that?
Green apple.
Green apple.
Yeah, it's a green apple flavor. It's usually pretty. No, it's green apple flavor, varying intensity depending on the beer.
I can get it in the nose a little bit. Would it be in the nose? I don't know if I can necessarily.
You get it both.
Yeah, okay.
You get it both.
It's in both.
There's a bit of a yeasty bite in this, too, but no, it's not quite clear, so there might be a little yeast in suspension, too. In general, I give it good marks for the recipe, but the fermentation didn't really seem to work too well in this beer, so I actually ended up scoring this about a 22. Where are you at, Brian?
I got a lot of the same things you did, but I do also think we're seeing some bottle-to-bottle variation. This second bottle, it's a lot clearer than the first one, for one thing, to look at it. And yeah, some of the flavors are coming across a little differently. I like this second glass of it a little bit better. But in the aroma, kind of a graham crackery malt and a touch of acetaldehyde in there, just enough to distract. Think of like the Green Apple Jolly Ranchers, but it's not that intense. The hops are kind of low and spicy, floral. Esters are to me, I didn't get a lot of big esters in this. I thought they were fairly low and somewhat in check, but I don't know. The first sample was also a little colder, and it came across a little more harsh in ways. Like it was just the flavor was a little more biting, and it's actually a little smoother as it's warming up here. But it did have a touch in the aroma of kind of a vinous kind of a aroma, which could be indication of a little oxidation. Not too bad, but just a touch perhaps. Color is medium amber, fairly clear. It's about right on the color, and has a low white head, faded fairly quickly, but and the first sample had a little kind of muddling haze, but this sample is a little better, a little more clear. So the malt character in this is pretty bold and a bit kind of biting, kind of like a lightly burnt toast. Hint of that, and I thought the bitterness was kind of towards medium. It was a bit too high for the style, perhaps on the bitterness, and there was like Lee got in it too, a little bit, something a little funky in the hops there. Finish is pretty dry, only a touch of acetaldehyde in the flavor, but a little bit of papery oxidation kind of indications, and but definitely the balance was to the malt as it should be. To me, it seemed like an okay lager profile. I know how hard they are to make. And sometimes you might get a little bit of fruitiness if you start, if you're having trouble, you getting it down to the temperature you need to from, whatever your wort chiller gets it down to, or I don't know what system you have, but if I'm usually trying to chill it down with the wort chiller as far as I can get it and then go down to, 50 degrees from that. And sometimes it takes a while, and you just need to pitch your yeast and get it going, so you can have a little fermentation that happens at that higher temperature. So get a little fruitiness from that sometimes, but kind of medium bodied in the mouthfeel, no real warmth, carbonation medium, not really creamy. It had a little bit of astringency in it, a little biting, presentation in the mouthfeel, but perhaps from the malts and maybe high temperature or too high of pH sparging. But yeah, overall a decent attempt at the Vienna Lager style, but it could be made to be excellent with a few fixes. Like Lee said, leaving it on the yeast a little longer is going to reabsorb some of that acetaldehyde that's produced early in the fermentation in the primary. And you can also make sure that you oxygenate the wort fully with lagers. It's really important to give it a big, healthy dose of yeast. You want to pitch enough to make sure it gets happy and does what it needs to at the temperature you're brewing this at. You can also let the beer age a little longer. Oxidation, I find with lagers too, it can be easier to get a little oxidation in there. And if you're transferring the beer while it's cold after the primary fermentation, or if you've crashed it to 32 degrees or whatever, you have to be really careful about transferring into the keg or into bottles or whatever you're transferring it into, because gases are more easily dissolved into a cold liquid than a warm one. So with ales, they're a little more forgiving because you're transferring it a little warmer usually into the keg or whatever. But other than that, like Lee, I agree. It seems like you used some real good authentic ingredients here and good base of recipe. So just it is. The goal was for us to say it's a drinkable beer. It is a good drinkable beer. I gave it a 24. It's not a perfect example of style, but it could be brought closer there. And if you've only been brewing on your own for 9 months, you got plenty of time to dig into the practices and keep learning. So thanks for sharing the beer. Thank you.
Thanks. Happy to be able to show. When I did my fermentation, I only could get the temperature down to like 60, and then I let it cool overnight. Yeah. And then I put my liquid yeast in when it was down to like 46. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to figure out, is that too long to let the yeast, not getting the yeast in the wort?
The problem you'd expect there, if it was going to be a problem, was you might get some contaminating bugs in there that would take over and make the beer sour, funky, or nasty. That did not happen, so you didn't have a problem there.
Right.
How much yeast did you pitch?
I pitched 2 vials of the white yeast, Southern German lager yeast.
How big a batch?
With a yeast starter.
With a starter. So
it was a 5-gallon batch.
Okay, so 2 vials into a starter?
Yep.
Okay, so that should be plenty of yeast then.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you... Well, go on. How did you do the ferment after that?
Then I'll admit, probably what happened is I sped up the ferment too much. But I let it ferment, rise to 50 for 2, 3, 4 days in there, let it ferment, and then when it started getting slower, I'd crank the temperature up a couple degrees. Either a day or 2 later, just to try to get it to ferment more.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the first week, it looked like it was pretty much done, but I still raised it up to about 58. Try to make sure I don't get any buttery flavors, and then after the second week, I racked it and put it in a keg, and then crashed it.
So what I would say is the first part of your ferment, you probably hit the right steps. The temperature rise from 46 to 50 or 54, you said? In the first few days?
50.
To 50? Might be a little fast. You might want to keep a little cooler than that, but honestly, I'm not sure that would be a huge problem. But if you're going to start at 46, you might want to keep it in the 46 to 48 range for a few days before you let it start going up.
What's going to happen? How would you be able to tell if that's what you did?
So during the early part of the ferment is where the yeast start making most of the esters.
Okay.
So if you want to not have esters, you want to keep them cool in the very early stage. Honestly, from what I understand, it's probably the first couple days of the ferment, maybe even less.
Okay.
Basically, that the esters come out very quickly.
And yeah, also they could kick out a little more acetaldehyde and diacetyl early in the fermentation. We're not getting diacetyl, but the acetaldehyde that's stuck around.
Yeah, so that might help control the esters. If you're going to start cool, keep it a little cooler for a while. And, some good review of like Noonan's book on lagers, or even read over the little blurb on lager fermenting that Jamil has in his book on classic styles would be a good one to look at there. In general, letting the temperature rise a bit is a good idea. Maybe that was a little too fast, but it's hard to say. Bumping it up towards the end is a good idea because that's when you're really encouraging the yeast to reabsorb any diacetyl and acetaldehyde that's there. So this is, I think, where the key to your beer is. Since we're getting acetaldehyde, probably something didn't work properly at that stage. You warmed it up, but the acetaldehyde's still there, which means either you produce way too much early on, which maybe like the temperature rise a bit quickly might have done, or you didn't let it sit long enough on the yeast in the sort of the late stage of the ferment. Usually for a lager, I'd let them sit at least 2 weeks on the primary ferment before even thinking about racking or transferring. So if you try that one again, and by the way, kudos to you for having the ability to do the temperature control here. You need that to do this lager.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But maybe give it another week, ramp it a little more slowly, and then give it another week at the end to help reabsorb all that stuff.
Patience, young Padawan.
Yeah, patience, exactly. It takes some time to do these. And then after that, generally you don't do a crash cool for a lager. I think the classic formula is to drop the temperature after you've decided that your acetaldehyde rest is over, diacetyl rest is over. You drop the temperature a degree or 2 Fahrenheit a day till you get down into the 40s or 50s, depending what your philosophy is on lagering. And then you want to get off the yeast, and then you're going to store it, if you do the classic lager, probably between 40 and 50 degrees, and lower the better, actually even in the 30s if you want. The general formula that's for every 4 degrees Plato, I think it's 4 degrees Plato, you give it a week. So 1040 beer should be like 10 weeks of lagering.
Wow.
If you want to do the classic old school Bavarian method, that's what it is.
The tried and true, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And that will help smooth out all those flavors. I think it's a week for every 10 degrees, right? Or a week per Plato, basically.
Maybe that's what I've been doing wrong. No,
yeah.
I didn't know that either. Actually,
for something like a Doppelbock, it takes 6 to 9 months to really lager out and finish properly. Yeah.
We have this recipe if you want to. Know that.
So if you give it that kind of time, it might smooth out some of these flavors too.
And this beer could still smooth out a bit if.
Yeah. Put it in the fridge and lager it.
And I would score the second sample of it a little higher too. I would say it's probably more of a 29 in the second sample, but yeah.
Wow, that's big of a difference.
Yeah, I'd second that actually. There seems to be some definite bottle to bottle variation here. How did you bottle these?
With a Blinkman beer gun. It was the first time I've actually used it myself. So, I had several test bottles, and I tried one, and the carbonation to my end trade I looked pretty good, especially since it was the first time that I've used it with my beer, because I like kegs a lot better than bottling.
Oh yeah.
No argument there. Were you getting near any sediment in the bottom when you were finishing off that bottling run?
No, but I filtered the beer before I did it.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Do you have any questions for the guys, Glenn?
Let's see. I guess I'm using like a beer gun or something with the bottling. I can understand the inconsistencies with like fill level and maybe a little bit of carbonation, but I'm trying to figure out why there was such a big difference between one bottle to the other, especially with a beer gun.
Bottling is just, in my experience, bottling is like that. I mean, the beer gun's a good tool, but it takes some practice to get the technique right, where you can get good bottle-to-bottle consistency and get the carbonation right. How well you keep it sealed. You really want to chill that beer down. It helps chill the bottles before you bottle too. I actually put mine in the freezer before I bottle them and pull them out.
Yep.
Just because keeping it all cold helps keep the carbonation from jumping out. So if you had bottles at different temperature, the warmer ones might become a little flatter.
Yeah, you can shoot CO2 into the bottles too before you fill them. And also, if you're moving your keg around when you're going to set up for it, you can stir up what little yeast might be in the bottom there too. And the first bottle might have a little more haze or something than the other.
Right.
I did have the bottles in the freezer beforehand.
Wow. So look, you know a lot of the good tricks here, man.
Yeah.
You're ahead of where I was.
Yeah, no,
Welcome
you're
to the Brewing
doing,
Network.
Yeah.
There you
right.
go.
There you go.
Look at that.
some good schooling. Yeah, you're doing all the right things. It's probably, if you've been at it 9 months, it's probably just, for bottling, it's probably literally just getting the hand technique down.
Yeah.
Just getting the feel for it.
It takes a lot.
Trying different things. I mean, I've been bottling out of kegs for a long time, and I was just trying to do a triple a few weeks ago. Oh, man, it took me about a dozen bottles just to get to the point where I was happy with what was coming out. Then I could fill a few for competition, and before that, it's like I got these sort of half-flat bottles of triple to drink. Yeah.
Then you ran out of the bottles.
Yeah. No, I would say you're on the right track here. I think you got a few tricks to learn about getting the lager ferments to work out properly, and mostly it's about time and patience. And, just have to learn a little bit about how your beer gun works, and I think you'll be on the road to having a nice beer.
Yeah, I personally didn't even try making a lager until after brewing for 5 or 6 years. So
yeah, no
if you can just
kidding.
listen to the Brewing Network here and learn how to make a lager like this in 9 months, hey, you're doing something right.
Yeah, you're picking a tough thing to do quickly.
Well, thank you. I do have one more question, if I may ask.
Absolutely.
Water. Now, I admit I don't have my water report in front of me or anything like this, but I've used one of those precision hardness test strips where you can test how hard your water is, or if those first any good. And secondly, when I do the test on the water that I use, it's very hard. It's 500, according to the strip, 500, I'm going to butcher this, convertration ppm.
Yeah. A calcium?
Calcium carbonate.
Ooh.
I'm
is
going
hard.
to assume so. I'm going to assume it's that much is in there because we have hard water in this area.
I know the strips they're not super accurate. They're supposed to give you a range. Just a general range, but
yeah, most of the strip things. I mean, I'm not really familiar, to be honest, with the hardness ones. I know the pH ones are good within a range.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anything that's a test on a strip of paper like that's going to be terribly accurate.
Right.
You can also send your water off to like Ward Labs if you're serious about it, and have it tested for not too much money. They do that all the time, or other water testing places.
Yeah, but then you need to know about your local water supply a bit too. I mean, do they switch reservoirs on you halfway through the year and you get a different water?
Around here, the water is a lot harder in this. In the summer they're using more groundwater, and it's crazy. Like where I live anyway. But yeah, so go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So yeah, I mean, I would go with whatever your local water report says is probably the easiest thing to do. It's probably going to be pretty accurate.
But yeah, if you're concerned about the hardness too, you can blend in some RO or distilled water with your water. I mean, your water is going to have like micronutrients and things in it that you can't just brew with distilled water and have it come out right. You need a certain amount of hardness in there. You need some calcium content, and you can build the water up from RO, but and a lot of people do that pretty well. But I think still you're missing some of the micronutrients, and I think blending with RO to get down below a certain level on the main things, and then building the rest back up to where you want it to be. But that's way ahead of
right.
Yeah. Playing with water is one of the last things you might do after you've learned all the techniques and learned all the lagering and everything. But yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and get your water tested. It sounds like, Glenn.
Yep.
I will do that. I mean, my mash pH is usually between 5.2 and 5.6, so I don't think it's the biggest concern right now, but that's something to fine-tune later on when I get better.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it again, Glenn. It was very good beers, and I appreciate you sending them.
I appreciate you having me on the show, Justin.
Thanks, man. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Sorry. Bye.
All right. That's all right, man. Don't worry about it.
He appreciated it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, Glenn. Take it easy, man. Nice guy.
He's doing a lot of stuff already, man.
He's kind of with it, right?
Yeah. He's got the bug, I think.
I believe me, it was years before I tried fermenting a lager. It's like I just read about what was involved. It's like, nah, I'm not
even
bother
trying to
with
do it.
that. I just go buy that if I need that. Yeah.
All right, let's take a break, and then when we come back, we'll do our little... no, we're not doing our recap. We have another brew.
Yeah.
We have Caleb in the studio, which, thank God, finally, there's someone in the studio that I don't have to call on the phone or mess with Skype or whatever. Caleb, maybe you can go down the street and stand on the corner and then call in just for fun.
Skype in from your cell phone.
It'll be fun. We'll see you guys on the other side of this break. Hang on a sec. It's Dr. Homebrew.
The Starbucks cold brew you love is now available in a can. It's so good you'll believe that too good to be true can be true. Like finding out that you and your crush have been listening to the same playlist on repeat. With the smooth taste of Starbucks cold brew in a can, sipping is believing. Available in 3 delicious flavors. Shop now wherever you buy groceries. Click or tap the banner to learn more.
Where do you go for all the stuff you need to brew? Homebrewstuff.com, of course. In their Boise, Idaho storefront and warehouse, they have more than 750 craft beers and 8,000 square feet of homebrew products in stock. The staff at Homebrew Stuff are homebrewers themselves. They try out just about everything, including the beer, so they can answer your questions knowledgeably and correctly about brewing, kegging, and anything else you might need to ask. Don't live near the Homebrew Stuff store? Visit homebrewstuff.com online and take advantage of their $7.95 domestic shipping available on most orders. Homebrewstuff.com is a proud sponsor of the AHA, NHC, GABF, and countless other acronyms. So if you're a homebrewer looking for great people, a great selection, and great deals, head to homebrewstuff.com, online or in person. Visit their YouTube channel for loads of free how-to and product videos. All of the stuff you need to brew. homebrewstuff.com.
Hey, dude, you know what beer this is?
No, all the labels are falling off.
Yeah, or the ink is run.
Well, if it's a pale ale, you're good, but stay away from the quote-unquote Belgian.
Oh, man, this guy needs to get some grog tags.
Grog tags are reusable, write-on, wipe-off, commercial-grade bottle labels for your brew. The guys at Grog Tag are homebrewers. They wanted great-looking, sturdy labels for your bottles, buckets, carboys, kegs, and growlers. They also wanted a label that not only looks good, but can be easily removed and reapplied during bottling without that nasty glue residue being left behind. No residue, water-resistant, and ice chest approved. Grog tags stay on in water or an ice chest, and they stay legible. Visit grogtag.com to customize your label or coaster from dozens of different templates for free and see how awesome your bottles can look.
It's that pseudo-Belgian.
Yeah, we're getting him some grog tags, dude.
Grog Tag. At least your beer will look good. grogtag.com. Back to the examination.
All right, thanks for sticking with us. It is Dr. Homebrew, the best radio show ever on the Brewing Network, aside from Lunch Meat. Dr. Homebrew really is going to be the show that carries the network into the future. Let me tell you, this is the future of internet podcasting radio that is recorded previously and then played live to you in your ear whenever you want it. They should come up with a shorter word for that.
Future.
Yeah.
It's the future.
Do we need to get away from our past?
The future is now. I just want to tell you guys all that. The future is right now.
The present, actually, but okay.
Well, but, you got to get meta on it.
Meta?
Yeah.
Well, now that moment was the past.
See?
Yeah.
Now you're catching on.
Seeing?
Time's relative.
Right. So what's next?
What's next? We have
the future.
We have Caleb in the studio.
Yay.
Caleb, are you on that?
Don't forget to turn on his mic.
Yeah.
Hello.
All right, there we go. We got you. Hey, this is the only manual one that's on there. So it's funny, Doc. So Caleb's sitting in Doc's spot way at the corner there, and Doc still forgets to turn his mic on every show. Every show. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Caleb, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Good to meet you. Thanks for coming in and farting around with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So what beer did you bring in?
I brought a premium American lager.
Premium American lager. Now, the guys were trying to tell me what a premium American lager is, but I wasn't listening. What is a premium American lager?
It is Category 1C, just above light and standard lagers. I think when you compare it to light and standard, it has less adjunct, up to about 25% corn versus 40% in 1A and 1B.
Okay.
A little more flavor, but still a crisp beer. Well-balanced beer, refreshing beer. A little bit of carbonic bite.
Okay.
At least that's what it should be.
That's what it should be. Well, we're about to find out if it does. Brian.
Carbonic bite.
Carbonic bite. Sounds like a band name. This is Carbonic Bite!
It does have carbonic bite.
It's about vampires on batteries.
Yeah, this one has a nice, pleasant, grainy malt nose, and just smells like a good lawnmower beer. You can. I mean, even though it's 10:30 at night here, I want to go out and mow my lawn right now.
You can mow mine.
Okay,
it'll save me $30.
Hops are not, kind of a little spicy in the aroma and kind of medium intensity. They're almost overpowering that delicate malt, but it's a very cleanly brewed lager profile. No esters, no diacetyl. There's a tiny hint of DMS or dimethyl sulfide, which is a kind of a cooked corn-like aroma, which is appropriate in the style at low levels, and it's just the right amount of that. Appearance-wise, it's a very pale straw color with a low white head, and it fades after a short while, and you can forgive that in a beer like this because they do tend to do that. They're pretty light, but it's quite clear. There's, I mean, if you put your finger on the other side, you can only see just a tiny hint of any haze, which is with a beer this light, when it looks this clear, I'm happy. That's good. Flavor-wise, just very crisp presentation, a nice light malt presentation, and very very cleanly brewed lager fermentation. Nice job there. The hop bitterness is kind of medium. It's on the high end for the malt that's there. So like the balance of it that way is a little bit towards the hop bitterness and the hop flavor, which I find to be interesting and cool, and it works for this beer. But it's definitely pushing that envelope a little bit. Hop flavor is it's got some different elements in it. It's got a little spicy florally kind of thing that you would expect from what you would want, like a blend of noble hops, like the and other hops, whatever they use in their crazy hop blend extracts and what they do in the big breweries. This one has a kind of a light citrusy element, like a light lemon in there, but it wasn't offensive to me. It just kind of blended with the other elements in there.
I get that, yeah.
Pleasant. And it has a nice dry finish. Low malt overall, so it's definitely a little more hop balanced than some of these are, but I found the flavor was really, really nice and pleasant. Medium light to light body, kind of, it does have that big carbonic bite, which is the defining part of the mouthfeel for this beer. Not very creamy. You wouldn't really expect it to be anyway. No alcohol warmth. You wouldn't expect that. No astringency. Just overall light in the impression in the mouth, the way it feels in the mouth. So, I thought it was a very nice example of the premium American lager style. Perhaps even just a touch light on the malt. You could either bump that up a touch, or you could pull back the bitterness just a touch. I mean, I'm talking about little minor, tiny adjustments in this. Bump up the malt ever so slightly, if at all, but because it's kind of a cool looking beer because it's so light straw. It's just like it almost looks like water, but there's just it's just a real delicate color, which is cool and hard to get in a homebrew. And
that's what you want, right? That's the style. Is very light.
It can go a little darker than this. It can go into the yellow, but this is perfectly acceptable, and it's on the lighter side of color for the style and malt intensity for the style. But yeah, really good beer, and I'm interested to hear what hops are used in this.
I got the recipe.
We can get to that after Lee comments on it. But there's so little to hide behind in a beer like this. I know how hard these are to make, so I have to say, bravo, good, nice job. I gave it a 39.
All right. Yeah, it is really hard to get this light, clear color in a homebrew.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Brian's right. There's so little in these beers. It's like naked beer. There's nowhere to hide. Any minor little flaw, and it'll show up is no hiding things. So what do we get here? Light Pils malt, bit of a bready, crackery flavor, low hop note, herbal, a bit leafy and spicy, like you want in a noble hop. Clean ferment, no diacetyl or DMS, no esters. Although I began to think towards the end of the taste when we were judging, maybe I was getting just a whisper of DMS. I wasn't really even sure. It'd be threshold at tops. Bit of a leafy green character to the hop notes, which I thought was a little odd. It should be just a nice, clean, spicy noble hop, but it wasn't a big dominant sort of thing either. It was one of those, things would probably be sub-threshold in most other beers. Appearance is pale yellow. It's almost brilliant, just a slight bit of haze. I can pretty much see my fingerprints through the glass, which is generally a pretty good sign of clarity. Pours a nice fine foam. Doesn't last very long, but you don't really expect that for this style of beer. Actually, the first pour downstairs, it persisted pretty well. Here it's not. Maybe it's not the first use of this glass, so that happens. Flavor, crisp light Pils malt again. Hop notes up front. Fades to a slightly sweet finish with low lingering hop flavor, spicy herbal kind of flavor, no overt fruitiness, balance is about even. It's a clean ferment, very, very refreshing, crisp beer. Little bit of that green leafiness is coming out here to me again. Body, medium low, CO2, medium to medium high. It's not really, to my taste, tingling or carbonic, but it's actually a really nice balance with the carbonation. I don't really like the ones that are really just in-your-face gassy. It's not astringent or hot. A little bit of low creaminess is nice. I picked up a little bit of a lingering mineral or chalky note, which I thought was a little odd for the style. Although there's some other possibilities for that, too. I'm not sure if it's mineral. Given the slight haze, I'm almost wondering now if it might be just a little bit of residual yeast in the beer, too, doing sort of a sulfury, yeasty character to it. It's very light, but I am picking this up. All in all, I thought it was a really nice example of the style. It's crisp, it's refreshing, it's clean. The flavors are nicely balanced. It's very well balanced. The ferment is good. Really, the only things are I think a few minor adjustments would help this. If there's minerals or you're not doing some distilled water on this, maybe throttle, add some. If you did the mineral adjustment and the slight haze is really what's going on, then maybe it needs another shot of lagering through a filter to get rid of the last bit of yeast. I'm not sure. But it's a pretty minor thing. It doesn't show up that strongly. The little bit of hoppy leafiness, sort of a green vegetable flavor, like you just get from the green matter of the plant. It's a low-level thing. But I did pick it up, and it's a little out of place. To fix it, usually that's the sort of thing I look at in a pale ale or an IPA and think, like, you let it sit in the hops too long. But I doubt you dry hop this beer. That would be totally out of style. It doesn't taste like it. So it'd be a little hard to fix it. Really the easiest way to do that is change the hop variety or reduce the time you're sitting on the hops. But since you're not dry hopping, that doesn't apply. The only thing I could throw out there otherwise is that the pros who make this to sell in wide commercial distribution are probably using mostly hop extract products and aren't getting a green vegetal bit anywhere nearby. You probably could do that as a home brewer, getting
absolutely
alphas and extracts, oils. So that might be worth a try if you really want to go for broke on one of these beers. Other than that, the only other thing that came to mind about that is if when you're racking from the kettle into the fermenter, is maybe do either a settling step in a second rack or a little filtration or something to get rid of any hop particulates that are in the boil so they don't live in the fermenter while the ferment's going on. Those are all minor things, though. I don't think I'd noticed them in a beer that had a whole lot more, malt or hop flavor in it. All in all, I thought this was really good. It was crisp. It was light. It was well balanced. I could chug down buckets of this. I gave it a 41. I thought it was an excellent beer. It's a good job.
All right. What do you think about that, Caleb?
Thank you. Yeah. I guess a couple of things I can comment on. So the hops, it was crystal.
Oh, yeah.
Crystal hops.
Crystal hops.
And I know the primary descriptors of that is it's spicy and floral, so maybe the floral character is contributing to the leafiness, if it was the hops, if it wasn't something else.
Why did you go with those?
It's what I had.
Yeah? Just one of those, huh?
That was the major American hop for many decades. Definitely before the craft beer boom. Before Cascade, which is like our first craft beer branded hop. Yeah. Crystal was the crop in this country, pretty much.
So
that's what all these guys use. All the big breweries used.
So it's to style, then.
Yeah,
you'd say.
yeah. It is the hop you'd use if you're making the classic American Pils, and it is a noble hop derivative, if not quite noble itself. But it gets pretty much the right sort of flavors.
And in terms of the malt, it is on the lower end of the gravity. I mean, I think it starts at 1046, and this is at that. I think it's about 1046. So I think that's more a product of judging so many lagers that are too strong in certain flavors and wanting to go to the extreme to keep things very clean, crisp, and light. But certainly could be higher up in the malt character.
But I think even though you have a lighter base malt, there is a lot of flavor in this. There's a lot of yeast profile, right? Or there's that kind of hop flavor going on. There's the clean, crisp.
It's got some flavors in it that keep it interesting despite the lightness. So like there's that the hop flavor in it I found to be pleasant, and it wasn't what I would expect if I was drinking a mass produced beer, but it was interesting and it still fit within the style. So I really liked that.
Yeah, it was almost more really it's kind of more interesting than most mass produced beers. It was detectable, a little less just sort of bland.
Yeah. Let's go through the recipe. For 5 gallons, a 90-minute boil, a 47% premium 2-row malt, premium 2-row. None of that, half 2-row or that shady 2-row nonsense. This is premium all the way. 24% flaked corn, 23% 6-row, and 4% rice hulls. I assume to kind of help with that sparge with the corn, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Did you have any problems with that?
I've never had problems. In fact, I've not put in rice hulls and never had problems as well.
With corn and all that kind of stuff. Have you done this recipe before?
No.
Okay.
First time.
All right. And then for 60-minute boil, 1.52 ounces of crystal at 3.6 alpha. That's it. Pretty straightforward. And again, you can find that on BrewToad. You can look up Caleb or Premium American Lager. Ideally, it'll be under the Dr. Homebrew webpage.
Did we ask Caleb how long he's been brewing? I mean,
I don't think we did. I think we
if he tells me he's been brewing
it.
for 2 months or something, I'll be
right.
irritated.
Yeah, he brewed this beer last week.
Right. That's why he was on right now, is because he was just finishing up. He's just bottling right now.
Right.
How long have you been brewing?
I lived in Berkeley 10 years ago, and I walked into a little homebrew shop called Oak Barrel. I spoke to 2 great guys there, Homer and Bernie, and bought a kit and started brewing 10 years ago. And ever since then, I've been brewing pretty consistently.
Do you do a lot of lagers?
Only in the last 3 years.
Yeah. Cool.
It's fairly recent.
That's very good.
Seem to have the knack for it.
Yeah, works out for sure.
Yeah, this is excellent.
Do you have any questions for the guys on anything, or
the other thing that was in the recipe, I don't know if it got into the database, but just to mention, I did add calcium carbonate, half a teaspoon. The one thing I was surprised by was, and this is a good question. So I mashed pretty high at 154, and I used San Francisco lager yeast, and the attenuation on that is 65 to 70%, but I actually got a close to 80% attenuation here, which I was surprised by. And I was within all parameters of the fermentation in terms of temperature, so it wasn't fermenting high. Again, I mashed pretty high, so I was just surprised. Any other thoughts on why that level of attenuation happened with a yeast strain that wasn't rated that high?
Yeah, it did come across pretty dry, and also with the light gravity, it almost came across like a light American lager in the mouthfeel kind of thing, and just very light presentation overall. I mean, sometimes you can do the same exact thing twice, and it ferments down a little lower, and then the second time it'll ferment a little higher. But yeah,
I'm not 100% sure about that. I could take a wild guess that the non-barley based grains you put in there maybe ferment out a little lower. Okay. Especially you had how much corn was it?
25%.
Yeah, I would kind of guess that there's a lot less higher sugars left behind in that, a lot less indigestible goodies in corn when you mash it than there is in barley. But I would need to go and look that up to be sure. But
Okay.
Corn just doesn't seem to me to have a whole lot of stuff behind it once you get away from the husk on it. At least that's what it seems like every time when I eat it off the cob. It's just pretty sweet and gushy inside, and it's all gone quick.
Right.
And as to that yeast, you did a pretty good job getting this clean a beer out of it. Usually it pumps out a fair amount of sulfur. But the carbonate that you added might be given that sort of minerally note that I was talking about. I think that might bear a little revisiting. But it depends what the water is like where you got.
Yeah, you're using calcium to, because with all the light malts in this, you want to, make sure you have enough calcium in your mash to get the pH where you want it to be. You could experiment with using calcium chloride the next time instead of the calcium carbonate and see what that does. Sometimes that gives a little kind of sweeter impression in the beer, so it'll change it. It might not be as dry and crisp as this, or you could blend the two and see what happens. Play around with that a little bit. Yeah. Go real subtle with the water adjustments, and even blend back a little farther with RO or distilled water if you want to just get a more neutral water character in that. But play with that a little bit if you want. But what you did worked nicely, and it's nice and crisp, and I like it that way for this beer. So,
yeah, it brings up another interesting point. I mean, I have never researched in particular what the big breweries do to make these beers, but it's not like there's, as far as I know, some sort of endogenous water profile for this beer like there is for, say, a Vienna Lager or an Irish Stout or anything like that. It wasn't made in an area that had a particular water profile, and these days I'm sure they're all using industrial water, filtered, RO, distilled, whatever, clean to within an inch of its life, and adding back just enough mineral to make the ferment work and the mashes work properly. Certainly it's not like there's a lot of notable mineral quality to any of these beers. So you probably ought to think about it in terms of getting as low mineral content of water source as you can, and then just doctoring it back to where it will have the correct minerals for pH and for health. And actually, you can probably even use acids to do pH adjustments on something like that if you need to. Like a little phosphoric acid would probably be the classic thing. I don't know how you'd adjust the pH the other way. I don't think I want to get into like throwing sodium hydroxide into your mash, but that sort of approach might work. I mean, we got pretty low mineral water around here, but you might need to get a little lower still for this. What did you do for the water besides the calcium carbonate you threw in?
That's it.
Just into local Oakland water, Berkeley water?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Carbon filter, I imagine. Or just straight out of the tap? Really?
Straight out of the tap.
Right. Do you add any sulfites or anything to get rid of the chlorine?
No.
That would be a good idea, too. Although you seem to have done it. Doesn't seem to be too apparent. But I've seen that, a lot of people brew cultures around here without doing that.
Okay.
Often I'll get a little chlorophenol.
All right. There actually is a question from the chat from Koala Sprint for you, Caleb. And he goes, why did you choose to brew an American light lager when so many are available? Was it just for the challenge or personal preference for the style?
It certainly wasn't the latter. I mean, I've never brewed a light lager. This is the first time. I have 4 beers on tap, and I was going to bring something in for the show, and what better than to put in front of 2 masters than a light lager and have them talk about it?
Right.
You could throw the same question back, like, why would anyone brew an IPA when there's so many available?
I've asked that question. I need an answer to that question.
Is that where that bruise came from?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't, it might not be your personal favorite style, but to take on the challenge of brewing this beer and to brew it well is, a pretty good feat. So,
well, that's how you become a better brewer, understanding everything.
Yeah, exactly. That is a challenge. Anyone who thinks they're a good brewer out there should try and make one of these and see how well they do.
Right.
If you can do as well as he did, you're doing a good job.
I agree.
This is tough to make. There is nowhere to hide any flaws whatsoever. Period. End of story. All done.
Well, Caleb, thanks for coming in, man. I think it was a really good beer.
Thank you.
That was awesome to try. And if you guys want his recipe, head on over to BrewToad. It's all over there. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do our little wrap-up, explain what beers we've tasted and what could be done to improve them, what we liked about them, what we didn't like about them, blah, blah, blah. And then we're going to go home to our separate homes and call each other on Skype.
I'm coming to mow, remember?
Talk about the show. You're going to mow my lawn tomorrow. You can do that tomorrow. I'll let you get a good night's sleep. It's Dr. Homebrew, everybody. Stay tuned.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Games.
That's it. I've had it. I am never putting hops in my beer again.
What? Why?
It's just too ridiculous. Insane prices, stupid contracts, high shipping costs, crappy selection.
Dude, you need Nico Brew.
Nico Brew will rock your f***ing face right the f*** off your f***ing skull. $5 shipping to all 50 states. Plus fantastic international rates get you low prices on Nico Brew's great selection of hops and more. Whether you're a home brewer, a pro brewer, or a homebrew shop owner, Nico Brew can get you the hops you need in increments big and small. Single orders, spot buys, or full contracts. And there's only one place to join the uber special secret elite bare bones club where you'll get the best deals anywhere.
Holy shit!
NicoBrew.com. NIKOBREW. Nico Brew, your bare bones buddy in the brewing business.
Hey, Wooly, I'm beat. Can we find a nice tree to just hang out in for a while?
You're beat. I've been swinging through this forest for 50 years, ever since we first escaped from the circus. I know, but there's got to be more to life than exploring this creek and trying to populate the valley by copulating with loose, hairy girls. Marquis, stop. Look!
What is that?
It looks like a man-made treehouse.
With fresh food.
And craft beer.
Welcome to the Creek Monkey Tap House, boys. Grab a seat. Creek Monkeys drink free.
Awesome!
The Creek Monkey Tap House in Martinez, California takes their mission of fresh food and beer seriously. They only serve locally raised beef and chicken, as well as local sustainable produce. It's better for you and the planet, and it just tastes better. The beer and wine at Creek Monkey Tap House are chosen with the same care for the highest quality and rotate frequently to make each visit an adventure. Swing on into the Creek Monkey Tap House and enjoy a new legend of amazing food, beer, and wine. The Creek Monkey Tap House, online at creekmonkey.com.
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. Oh, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
Nicely said. Well done. Hey, by the way, why do they keep moving my tea time? I don't even play golf.
Well, that's probably why. I'm trying to push you on that course.
No, it's your tea time, Lee.
Yeah, with Grandma Brian over there.
Bring on the scones. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Welcome back to Dr. Homebrew, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. As if you had a choice. I mean, what else are you going to do on a Thursday at whatever time you're listening to this? I don't know, it's always weird to talk to people, because there's people who listen live, right, to these shows, and then most people download them as podcasts. So it's like, what are you doing while you're listening to the show? Are you driving? Are you babysitting? Are you assembling small parts for an iPhone in China?
We want to know. There should be a page for people that they can write what they were doing when they listen to the show.
There should be. Well, in the comments, you can,
chat room.
The comments in the chat, yes, you can do that.
Don't chat and drive, doing? Please.
Right. Drinking beer and scratching my belly. I mean, you'll be a bunch of that.
I kind of want that. You know what? I kind of want to do something like that, like a photo gallery of what do you do when you're listening to the shows. It's just going to be a web of traffic in front of a dirty windshield, probably is most of what people do here. But I mean, are you prepping for surgery? Are you delivering a baby? Are you taking the garbage out right now? So how much garbage do you have? Do you sort your recycling? These are the things, the pressing issues that the Brewing Network is getting to the bottom of in 2013.
Some people might actually be brewing a beer. They could be like brewing the style that we're talking about.
Nobody brews beer.
Oh, come on.
Nobody.
They just peel the labels off something they buy and send it in, right?
Like, here you go. Slap. Okay, so let's go over the beers that we just tried. We had Glenn, correct, with his Vienna Lager.
Mm-hmm.
And we liked the beer. It's a good beer, right?
It seemed like a good recipe, and that second bottle was definitely better. So, there is some bottle to bottle variation. We get that sometimes, but yeah, it was a good beer. I liked it. Just kind of need to fix that acetaldehyde and avoid oxidation, and it would be a lot. Clean up some of those little flaws that we saw in there, but. Otherwise, it was a pretty good choice of ingredients and everything, and it seems like he knew what he was doing. He's as long as he's been doing it, he's on the right path. So send us some more beer later, Glenn.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Please do.
Glenn is an insanely ambitious brewer to be doing all that with such a difficult beer to brew so quickly after learning how to brew. I mean, everything from managing lager yeast ferments to getting a new beer gun working properly and everything. That's just. It takes a while to get all that stuff down. He is going for it, and I appreciate that. And I think,
too.
Another year under his belt or 6 months, do this again, he'll probably have a very nice Vienna Lager. I would not be at all surprised for that.
So you guys were talking about the acetaldehyde. If I said it right, I don't know. Is it
acetaldehyde?
Acetaldehyde.
Nobody really knows how to say it.
All right.
Let's say acetaldehyde.
The green apple flavor.
Yes.
How do you get rid of that? Lee, you were mentioning leaving it on the yeast a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And that's what you do?
Generally, healthy yeast will reabsorb that at the end of the ferment. So you need to have some healthy yeast. You need to have it well mixed in with the beer. So for a lager, it works for an ale too. I mean, for an ale during a diacetyl rest, you'll get rid of it. For a sort of British style, for a lager, do the diacetyl rest at the end. You'll get rid of the diacetyl, and it should get rid of the acetaldehyde pretty much the same way. It'll absorb it all. The key is you have to have some healthy yeast around that's still got some energy left to keep itself alive. And it can help also if the yeast is all crashed out. Which you have to look at your fermenter to see if that's the case, to rouse it a bit, maybe get it stirred up into solution, when it's basically at the tail end of ferment and it just wants to crash out. Mix it in with the beer, and that'll help absorb all that stuff. That's kind of the classic reasons why some of the English beers will tend to have diacetyl. The yeast tend to flock like crazy, and they just don't stick around in suspension to fish out all the diacetyl and eat it up.
Just clump up and drop, right?
Yeah,
okay.
If you actually rouse it up for a while, you might get rid of it better, but... Yeah,
but it sounds like Glenn did a lot of things right with his yeast, too, and he pitched plenty of healthy yeast, 2 vials into a starter. I would think would be plenty to ferment this beer. And there was the fine point that he made about maybe not raising your temperature up too fast early in the fermentation, which might generate some, a greater abundance of those elements, the acetaldehyde and, diacetyl and things like that. So, yeah.
Great. And then Caleb, we're going to talk about him like he's not here still, but indeed he is. Sitting in Doc's chair. He had that wonderful premium American lager. What can you say to that?
It was pretty premium.
We were talking about maybe bumping the malt up a little bit. Brian, you were saying a small, tiny bit.
Yeah, we're talking about just minor adjustments here. We're at basically a 40-point beer, roughly, and it's... just needs some fine tuning a little bit, but it was interesting that it sounds like it was a single hop beer. Was that the case? Yeah. So you could experiment with blending hops, but I thought the character that was there was interesting. It was a nice choice for the beer. Amazingly for what you had around being the choice that you made that day, but that's what a lot of brewers do. So the next time you can make it with a different hop and it'll come out totally different. But
or you were even saying the extracts.
Yeah, and you can
try some hop extracts.
Mm-hmm.
That might, do it like the big boys do for these things. It might get rid of that little bit of unwelcome vegetable flavor from the hops.
Or it might start tasting more like crap.
Yeah. I mean, you'll have to drink it or do something, but
I kind of did like the vegetable character. It gave it like a
level of interest it doesn't usually have.
Thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then we're talking minerals also.
Yeah, a little bit of sort of a mineral flavor. Calcium showed up, and that just don't add calcium what did you like? Calcium carbonate.
Yeah.
Maybe some chloride would be a little better, a little less. Maybe blend some RO water in there.
I would definitely too also start filtering your water. Get one of those. It's like a filter housing with a thing you screw onto your tap and just it seemed to work for what you did. There must not be very many chloramines in your water supply there, but I don't know. I think
build one yourself.
The water where I'm at, if you don't filter it, it's going to make horrible beer. So you're lucky, I guess.
All right, I think that's about covers it, right?
Sure.
All right, let's play the outro music and get out of here. What do you think?
We're ready to hit the wormhole?
We're ready to hit the wormhole.
Okay.
Thanks again, of course, to our lovely sponsor, 5starchemicals.com. Head on over there, find out what's missing in your brewery arsenal. I just made that up. That's a pretty good tagline. Ask for it by name at your local homebrew shop. Also, like to thank BrewToad. If you want to figure out the recipes for any of these beers that we've talked about on this show, or the past shows, or the future shows, who knows, go to brewtoad.com, look up Dr. Homebrew, and you'll find all these recipes on there, fully laid out in beautiful, vibrant color, easy to use, great interface. Thanks to our sponsors. Who do we got? Nico Brew. We got Grog Tag. We have everybody. Rebel Brewer is a new guy that we got on. Creek Monkey. Visit all these people. Tell them you love them. And if you love the show, go to iTunes and rate this stupid thing. Would you please rate it, comment on it, tell everybody how great it is. If you don't like the show, go to iTunes and rate the session and tell them how terrible that session was, because that's what this is called. If you love it, this is the Brewing Network's Dr. Homebrew show. Please go to iTunes and help us. I don't even know what it does. I guess, I don't know. It does some things.
We forgot to thank Skype though, and all those thank yous you just
Thanks to Skype. Thanks to Skype for getting the landline some use.
Fifth
adding
sponsor.
Complexity to our lives.
Right. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming in, Caleb, and thanks for calling in, Glenn, and of course to Brian and Lee. Thanks a lot as always, but you have no choice. And we'll see you guys later. It's Dr. Homebrew.